Hey guys, I hope that you are doing fine. In this video, I'm going to show you how to deploy Windows using PXE Boot without WDS role in SCCM. Before we move forward, I know in the past video, I think it was part 15 and even part 14, I showed you guys how to deploy a Windows using WDS role, and I got a lot of comments and even a few emails to people saying that, oh, that's old, you shouldn't be using this. Yes, I understand it is old, but we also need to keep in mind that there are many organizations out there that do not move as fast as some of the organizations. I personally know some of the organizations that are still on Windows 7. There are some organizations even that are on Windows XP. Yes, they are on Windows XP for, those are some of the major defense companies. For many reasons, they cannot move to certain newer operating systems. So I would go through so many videos, and all of my videos are focused on all kind of viewers who are dealing with the SCCM at whatever level. So some of the stuff, yes, probably would be old. So please be patient with me. I will put out new videos that are according to the current level of technology that is available. So that aside, back to this video. In this video, I'll be basically covering is I will remove the current PXE boot, the one that I set up in the part 14 of this series. That would also remove the Windows deployment service role on that server, which is SCCM 01. Once that is removed, then I'll set up the PXE boot on the same server without a WDS role. And because that SCCM 01 is also a distribution point too, so I would set up the PXE boot on that without a WDS role. Once that role is set up, then I'll move to step 3 of this video, which would be deployment of Windows 10 Enterprise, and I'm going to name that machine as SCDP01. This would basically, the purpose of deploying this machine is that I want to show you how now you are able to set up a distribution point with the PXE boot on a non-server grade machine too. Basically, you could deploy Windows 10 Enterprise or even Windows 10 Pro and set up that one as a distribution point and use that one as a PXE boot. It's a very good cost-saving way of deploying the PXE into the production environment. Obviously, this would be a lab in this video, but you could do this on into production environment too. Then I would also, while I'm doing that setup, I will also go ahead and remove the PXE boot from SCCM 01 distribution point. This one, the step 2 basically. This way I can show you guys that the only distribution point that has a PXE boot setup in my environment is SCDP01. And then I will create and distribute another new task sequence, which would be a sample task sequence that would show you a demo of deploying Windows 7. I will be using it just to show you guys like different operating system can be deployed. I mean, you could, if you are walking along with me in this series, you could just deploy Windows 10 too if you desire to do so. But I will deploy Windows 7. Before I move to SCCM machine, I do have a request. I would really appreciate that if by any means these videos are helping you, please leave a comment and please try to share a video too. It goes a very long way if you appreciate it. And for any reason, if you don't like it or if you don't have a time for a comment or anything, maybe click the like or dislike button. At least you could do that much. Thank you so much. And if you really like it, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for all of the future videos. Thank you, and let's get started. All right. First thing first, I'm just going to log into SCCM server and remove the PXE, the current way, the way I have the PXE set up. So SCCM 01. I'm going to show you, if you go to the server manager, here you are going to see that WDS feature is still installed. So I'm just going to launch SCCM console. Go to administration, then go to site configuration. Sorry, go to distribution point. My bad, I apologize. Administration, distribution points, the distribution point where we are trying to remove the PXE from. In this case, I have only one distribution point, but I'm going to show you guys how to set up a second one today in this video too. So right click, go to properties, and check the tab PXE, and uncheck enable PXE support for clients. Yes, apply. Okay. And you could see the progress of what exactly is going on. There are actually two logs that you could monitor. One is, I believe, is SMS PXE.log, and then the other one is this MGR, is distribution manager.log. Anything that happens on the distribution point is in this log. Don't worry about these errors, because it's just going and trying to check for certain things, and if in the first run it fails, then obviously it's going to show that error, but it's going to keep going and keep running the processes, and eventually it's going to be successful. As you could see, successfully removed Windows deployment service. Now, if I just go back here and refresh it, it's gone. One thing that you guys need to keep in mind, that it does require a reboot of the server. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this one right in the beginning of it. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go and reboot the server. As you could see, restart pending. I'm just gonna pause just for a second and reboot the server and come back. All right, it's rebooting. And if you look at server manager, it's still trying to run a few things on the startup. Yep. Windows deployment service role is gone. So you can look at as remote install folder. That should be gone. Just gone here. Now I'm just gonna go back and set up or kind of reset up the PXE Boot. But at this time, I'm not going to set it up with WDS. So go to administration, go to distribution points again, select the distribution point. In this case, there is only one. Right click, go back, properties. Check PXE Boot. PXE, enable PXE support. Yes. Check all. This time you're going to check this one too. In the previous video, this is the check mark that I have left out purposely so that I could show you this complete video. So enable PXE responder without Windows deployment service. Just check it, click yes. I'm not going to set up the password for this lab purpose, so just leave everything as is. Click apply. And now I'm just gonna go open up the same distribution log again. Dist mgr.log. Excuse me. So configure distribution point is starting the configuration process for the PXE. So copying all the files. It can take some time, so I'll just I guess we'll just keep this one running for now. While this is happening, what I would do is I'm going to show you guys one more thing, that in the past task sequence, basically there was no way to add the computer name. So if I go and show you guys the machines that were emit with the past videos through the task sequence, you are going to see this arbitrary number, the one that system assigned to the new machines that are being created. So what I'm going to do is I will change a couple of things where during the task sequence, whenever there is a prompt at the beginning, you go and you select the task sequence, the one that you want to run. You would have the ability to enter the machine name that you want to set up. So the machine name that I'm going to build for the second distribution point, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to name that one as SCDP01. So to do that, what you want to do is basically go back to the collections, assets and compliance, device collections, and then go to all unknown computers, right click, properties, and collection variables. Click this icon. This is actually to create anything new. And the variable name is OSD computer name. And then you just uncheck this one. Now what would happen is, as I'll show you shortly, whenever we'll deploy any task sequence to this unknown computers, there we would have the ability to enter the computer name. And leave this value as blank, so that you have the ability to enter the computer name the way you want to. In my case, it would be SCDP01. Click OK. And you could see this one, the new variable that was created. You could actually create multiple variables over here too. And if you want to look at those variables, just Google collection variables for SCCM. You would be able to see many. And this is where you could populate so many other things that you want to. And there is a lot of fancy stuff that you could do. And in the future videos, I'll show you how you could do so many things too once those task sequences are going to get more complex, all the way to applying the drivers, how certain things needs to run at what time within the task sequence. So I'll show you all those, but for now we're just gonna go with only the computer name. So apply this, click OK. This one is kind of back to that, still running. I think it's configured properly. Installation transfer. Yeah, this looks good. So now what I'll do is I'll create a the task sequence that I'm going to distribute would be, this was shown how to create that one in the previous videos. I will be deploying this is the Windows 10 Enterprise with the feature update 1903. So I will go ahead and get onto my VMware ESXi portal and create and set up a new machine there, and then get the deployment started through the PXE. So here I'm just gonna go to my lab, which is 192.168.0.200. Virtual machines, create a new virtual machine, create a new virtual machine, click next. Compatibility default ESXi 6.0. Yeah, the name of the machine would be SCDP01. Guest operating system Windows, and this would be Windows 10 64-bit. Next, I will put it in workstations. Next, I am going to give this machine about let's say 60 gig with 8 gig of RAM. Next, everything is gonna be default. Finish. Power up. F12. There you go. So now this one is booting not through the Windows deployment service. This is booting directly from a distribution point using the PXE Boot. starting the WinPE. So if it was password protected, then obviously it would be a mandatory here. But since I have it not set up, just gonna click next. I'm interested in this Windows 10 1903. Next. And now this is that option, the one that I just enabled. This is where you could do enter the computer name, and once this machine is imaged, it would be imaged with that name, whatever the name that I'm going to give it, versus going back and then renaming and joining the domain. So call it SC DP01. Click OK. And one more thing that I want to show you right here. Actually, let me go back. And this is, if I would have configured it that where the value needs to be reconfirmed, then I would need to have, I would have this option available too. So just keep that in mind, that if you're doing it, then configure that value while you're configuring that unknown collection. You could just put there too, and it will make sure that it asks for you the confirmation of the value. Click OK. Next. So as you could see now, since this, I did not have to go and make any changes on the partition, how it is partitioned with the DOS or UEFI, because Distribution Point knows what to do. There should not be any kind of configuration that needs to happen on the DHCP level. And the other good part about going through this way, like PXE Boot through the Distribution Point, it's very fast. It's much faster than going through the path that I showed you guys in the previous video. You could, I'm sure, see it here too. It's just going pretty fast. And you would, while you're practicing it, you're gonna see the huge difference. And one more thing that I want to mention to you guys too, that you don't have to go and create this machine through the task sequence. Just in case if you don't want to follow along in this and you just wanted to install, just manually install Windows 10 in your lab, be it a virtual machine or even if you have a physical machine, you could still do it. You would still be able to do the next part, which is basically converting a regular workstation into the distribution point. I just wanted to add some extra values to your time, so that's why I just thought it would be a good idea to show you guys to deploy Windows 10 with. I actually wanted to show you how to enter the name at the task sequence too, so you could get a little bit extra idea on that one too. And it looks like to me it feels that it's a better flow of work and a little bit extra learning in this part too. So, but you could still go ahead and just manually create, which I showed you guys in the previous video, how to create a virtual machine manually, where you have operating system already, a source operating system already in the storage, and manually basically install it by clicking certain buttons, next, and then logging into that machine and joining the domain. You could still do that, no problems. But this way, it's going to save me time, and it can also give you extra knowledge too. So while this is being image, I'm just going to pause just for a little bit, and as soon as this comes back up, I will log in, and then I'll show you how I'm going to convert this one into distribution point. Once it's completed, converted into distribution point, then I will distribute Windows 7 task sequence content onto this new distribution point, and then I will go and remove the PXE boot from the first distribution point, which is SCCM 01, and enable the PXE boot on SCDP 01, and then deploy and create another machine, which would be Windows 7. So I'll be just back in a few minutes. Thank you. So it has applied the operating system, and now just restarting the first time. All right, let's boot it. So I'm just gonna try to log in the first time. So in probably next video, I'll show you guys how to create a GPO that would automatically apply to all of the new machines that are joined to the domain in my lab, where RDP is enabled by default. Right now, what I'm gonna do, once it's logged in, I'll just go ahead and enable the RDP, because I really don't like to work in this little small window. And then on top of it, it takes away a lot of other functionality, so you have to just kind of go and just send the command lines. By using this, I personally love working in RDP because it gives you the ability to do whatever you want right away versus going and clicking the actions button. So the only thing, initially what I'm going to do on this machine is to enable the RDP. And in order for you to actually convert this one into a distribution point, there is a prerequisite for it. One of the prerequisite is there are certain ports that needs to be open. So I will test those ports. There are, I believe there are 4, which is TCP 445, 135, 80, and 443. So I'll just go and test each one of them through a command line if the that port is open. If it's not, then I'm gonna open it through the firewall. So first thing first, I'm just gonna enable the RDP on this machine. You should already know it, but just in case if you don't, there are many ways you could do it, but one quick way, the way I do it, is right click to this computer, go to properties, and then remote settings. Allow remote settings, remote connection to this computer. You could give it to specific users if you like, but for now I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna leave it as is. Whoever wants to log in from my lab, I can apply, click OK. And now when I do MSDSC, and as you could also see, this is one thing I want to point out here too. This time, whenever this machine was imaged, it was imaged with SCDP01 versus any kind of arbitrary numbers, the one that happened in the previous videos. So I'll just go to SCDP DP01. And it's on Bibi. That's a domain name. User ID is SCadmin, and then my awesome password. Okay. Yes. And here I am. I'm just gonna close this window in the back here because it's not needed now. So go back to RDB, this. Okay. So this is good. Next thing I'm going to do is check the ports. The quickest way to do it is through PowerShell. So just start typing PowerShell. Come on. It's still trying to do certain things. Come on, Windows 10. Okay. Here, what you could do, the command line is to test dash network connection. Just do the tab on it. Come on. What is it? It's probably trying to look for some updates. Yep. I think that's what it's trying to do. Yeah, probably something is running. I'm not gonna worry about it, but let's just keep going. Okay, network connection, localhost. That's the command line to check for the open or for the status of the port. So I said is 445. Okay, so whenever you see TCP that succeed and whatever the values is true, that means it's open. So good with 445. Next, I'm just gonna press up arrow key so that the same command line kind of pre-populates again, and I'm gonna do 135. That's another port that is needed for the distribution point. This is open too. Again, up key, changing the value to port 80. Failed. Okay, so that means that is, and then you could see the value here is false too. So that means I will need to open that. Let's check the another one too, which is 443. This one is failed too. So 2 are open and 2 by default 2 are failed. So those 2 that failed, I'm not going to worry about it. The reason why, because let me show you. If you open the firewall rules in Windows 10, now it is those policies are built in default that whenever the distribution point is going to be enabled on the SCCM side, which is the management point side, this firewall rule automatically kind of gets enabled. So what I did, sorry, I gotta go back. So to get the firewall rules console, just type wf.msc. You are going to have this window open. Click on inbound rules, and if you look for it, it's right here. Branch cache hosted cache server. This by the time you would whenever the SCCM is going to convert this one to distribution point, this rule will get enabled, and then same thing goes for outbound too. If you look for that one too, is right here. So I'm not going to mess with these 2 rules. I'll just leave it as is. So they will get enabled automatically. That, and there is another prerequisite that you need to make sure. Please make sure that this one is added. You need to add the SCCM host name, which is the management point host name, which is also a site server host name, as an admin on this machine on SCDP01. So to do that, you could click on open the file explorer. There are many ways you could do it, but this is the way I do it. This PC, right click and select manage. Go to local users and groups, administrators, and this is where you need to add that machine. So click add, click on object types and check computers. If you don't check it, then it's not going to find it. Now type your SCCM server name. In this case, mine is SCCM01. Check to validate is there. Click OK. Apply. That's it. So this is the prerequisite. That's all set from this point, from the SCDP0 point of view. Now I'm just gonna go back into SCCM server, and sorry, this is, I was just looking at some properties. Go back to administration, then go back to site configuration, site servers, right click, create the site, create site system server, browse, put that the new machine, the one that we just created, is SCDP01. Check names to validate is there. Click OK. Then click on the site code. That's where your site server is. Oh, I just have only one, so select that. Now, if you are trying to set this one for internet, then you could just put a fully qualified domain name here. I'm not going to do it, so I'm not going to worry about this. Then click next. No proxy server setup for this setup, so don't worry about it. Leave everything default. Click next. Here, go and select for distribution point. Click next. Install and configure IIS. Check it. If you are trying to go into enable configure branch cache, I'm just going to do it. Leave everything else pre-stage. Yeah, for this lab purpose, leave everything as default. Next. This is where it checks for the drive space, if it's reserved, how much it needs to be before it moves on to different drive letters. There could be so many different configurations here. For this lab, I'm gonna make it as simple as possible. Maybe in the future, whenever I will add another distribution point for a few of the other things that could be done, I will mess with this one a little more. For this lab purpose, let's leave everything default. Click next. Same thing goes here. I'm not going to enable the pull distribution point. Just leave it as is. Click next. Yeah, this is where I would enable PXE, because that's the whole point of this video. So enable PXE support for the client. Yes. Allow this distribution point to respond incoming PXE requests. Yes. Enable unknown. Yes. Basically, you are going to click all of these yes, and only uncheck required a password. No, because I don't want to set up the password. Leave everything as is in the network interfaces. Click next. This is another kind of a drawback of PXE using the distribution point. At this time, it does not support the multicast. Just keep that in mind. So it's going to be grayed out. No choice to make here anyway. So click next. Content validation, you want to do that, I would just check it every week is fine. If you want to schedule it, that's fine. What it does basically goes back and just validates and kind of sync and make sure everything is good. Click next. Boundaries, yeah, this is very important. You, for the lab purpose, I'm going to add whatever the boundary groups that I have set up. But if you are trying to set this one up in a production environment, then you want to add only the groups that should report to this distribution point, wherever your location is, if it's by the location, if it's by the office, however you have it set up. I'm not going to complicate it in this video, so just simply click add, and I'm going to select whatever that I have available. Click OK for now. Click next. Summary of whatever selection we did above. Click next. Everything all green. If you have any warnings or any failures, you're gonna see warning as a orange or yellowish icon, or red as an error. So you will need to address it. If you run into any issues and you can't find the solution, feel free to leave a comment and I'll be more than happy to help you. Close. So now if you go to monitoring and go to system status, I'm sorry, distribution status, and select this distribution point configuration status. You see it's red right now because it's not set up and it's showing failed. But it can take some time. So the best way to do it is just you could kind of start monitoring the log, even this log right here. As you could see, it's still doing its checks, and whatever the stuff that is not available to it is configuring, and it's gonna keep chugging through it. And if we go to the SCDP01, you're gonna see the activity on this one too. Excuse me. Yeah, so you will see some more folders start, like right here. SCCM content lib is here. SMSDB, that's the distribution point share that is trying to create. So the activity is going on right now. I will just pause it for a little bit while this process is completing, and because it's right now it's sending some content, and as you could see, it's gonna sleep for about 1741 minutes. I mean seconds. I'll come back and start from here while this is configuring. At the end, what we would see is all of these reds are going to disappear, and this icon is going to turn into green, and we'll see this is all set up correctly. So I'm just going to pause just for a few minutes for it to complete, and I'll come back. Yeah, there is something else that I want to mention to you guys too, that the ideal way of setting up a distribution point is that operating system sits on one drive, while all of the other content goes on to a different drive or drives, depending on how much data that you are going to transfer, or whatever the operating systems and packages and everything that you are planning to distribute. So I did not want it to get this video confused, because I know there are a lot of people that are just starting to learn this. But in the future video, I will put out a specific video that is going to be focused only on the distribution points, which I'll show you guys how they are configured and set up in a real production environment. So just stay tuned for that, and hope you would understand that I'm just trying to move slowly so that everybody kind of gets a little bit understanding about how things work on a basic level, and then they can get more towards the advanced level. Yeah, while it's doing, I want to show you one more thing too, that you guys kind of can look at it, what is happening. There are actually logs that gets generated too onto the distribution point, the one that you are trying to set up in SC DP01 right now. And you could go to the system folder, and the folder name is going to be SMS_DP. You could go into that SMS, and these are the logs. You could kind of get the idea what's going on this one. Actually, this one, SMS DP Pro, is going to have better information in it. As you could see, DP like is kind of writing to what is happening on it, just to give you an idea. But the best way is, the best log is, again, I would say, to just keep looking at this one right here. As you could see, sleeping for 60 minutes before content cleanup task. So it's still going to wait just a little bit more. I would not go with the last status, because I think this 1741 seconds are going to come in before that. So let's see. I'm gonna pause it again and keep monitoring this log. So it's starting to move a little more forward, as you can see right here. And even the status on those errors are kind of starting to change too, and it's starting to distribute the content that needs to go onto that distribution point. So for now, I'm just gonna go back again and pause it and wait for all of this content and everything successful to show up. I'm just gonna pause it just again for a few more moments, and hopefully this will complete soon. Thank you. All right, as you could see, majority of the messages are starting to come back successful. What I'll do is I'll do two things now. One, I'm just gonna go on to SCCM 01 distribution point and change the properties. Basically, I'm going to remove the PXE off of that one, so that there is only one PXE boot server in the lab. So to do that, I'm just going to go to administration, go to site configurations, and then server and sites configuration. I'm sorry, go to distribution points. Sorry, I'm tired. Distribution points, and go to SCCM 01, right click, properties, and just uncheck this enable PXE support for clients. Apply. So this would basically remove the PXE boot off of SCCM 01 distribution point. Just gonna give it a second. And if you look at the logs, it's probably going to start doing that too. That is going to start removing it, and you could just, it's the same log that you could just always go back. Anything to do with the distribution point, you are going to find is in this log. So it's just checking it out. Click OK. So that's all set. So now the next step I'll do is I will go to the task sequence for Windows 7 and distribute that one to the new distribution point that I just created, so that I can image Windows 7 out of that distribution, the distribution point. So to do that, I just go to software library, task sequence, and search for Windows 7 Enterprise. That's the one that I created in the last video too. Right click, deploy, browse, click OK. All unknown computers, OK. Next, make sure that you have the PXE make available to the following. So make sure the PXE is there. You could do only media and PXE, but I'm gonna go with configuration manager client, media and PXE, all three of them. Next, and I'm gonna make sure it is available. Next, leave everything as is. Next, everything default for this lab purpose. Next, default. Next, distribution point. Next, next, and close. I'm gonna distribute this one to click, right click, distribute content. Next, next. I think it's already going through it, but just right there. SCDP01. Next. Okay. Next. Next. All right. Click OK. So, and to check the status again, you could go to the monitoring. Go to one way to do it is if you want to look at the status of the distribution point, you could just look at it by clicking distribution point configuration status. That is the configuration of the distribution point. That's why you are seeing is still uploading some of the content. You're not seeing error, but it's kind of showing that more of the content is being uploaded to that location or distribution point. To check the content, just click on the content status, and you could kind of see what I was interested in is Windows 7 Enterprise, which is right here. As you could see, there was one which is already distributed to SCCM 01 distribution point, but the other one, the second one, is right now in progress, which is SCDP01. So you could get more details by clicking view status. This one is, as you could see, the successful one is SCCM 01, and in progress is right SCDP01. And if I go to SCRDP into SCDP01, you're going to see, I'm going to refresh this, there are more folders that are being created. And that's where the content is going to start coming through. This is the packages, nothing here so far. As you could see, some of the content is starting to come through. Package, right there, information for the packages, some of the files. So you could see more and more content is starting to populate. So this kind of concludes the setup of the distribution point and also configuring PXE on a distribution point and not using Windows deployment services. So next, I'm just gonna wait for a little bit for all the content to be distributed to this distribution point, and then I'm going to create a new Windows 7 machine in the VMware and boot off of that and try to deploy Windows 7. All right, so almost everything is green, everything is distributed to the new distribution point that I have created. As you could see right here, SCDP01. All of the content is right there. You could kind of see all of the packages are successfully distributed. Now I'm just gonna go to my ESXi lab again and create a new machine, which would be Windows 7, and then I will try to deploy through the new PXE Boot. Call it S. This one would be T Win 7, maybe -7. Let's call that. That's the one we're gonna copy it. Windows 7 64-bit. Next. I'm gonna put it right here. Next. I'm gonna give it this one to about 8 gig of RAM, and I would say probably 40 gig of hard drive space. Click next. Everything finish. Boot it. Press F12. All right. So it's booting off of the PXE Boot from a distribution point that I created. Putting it to WinPE. Next. Windows 7 Enterprise. Next. Computer name. I had copied it. I'm sorry. It's T Win 7-7. Okay. Next. And as you could see, this is another reason I wanted to show you Windows deployment of Windows 7 too, because in previous video I have set up Windows 10 as UEFI, and now Windows 7 is set up as BIOS. So just wanted you to kind of know too that if you go this route, you're not going to have to worry about those, how the configurations are set up in the BIOS settings of any of the hardware that you are trying to image using the PXE. So I will kind of let this go through, and I'm gonna pause it. There is no point in wasting a lot of time because the rest of the process is very straightforward. This is going to complete the image of Windows 7 and join it to the domain with the machine name twin7-7, and hopefully you like this video. If you did not like all of it, then obviously dislike it. Or if there are any kind of things that you would want me to change in the future videos, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to consider your suggestions. And honest feedback is always welcome, and I would appreciate it too. Thank you so much wherever you are. Have a wonderful rest of the day or evening. Peace.